Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Supplies.
Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot my supplies. That's a good point. So ideally for one of the breath exercises today, if you have a pen or marker and a piece of paper, just a single piece of paper. So if you don't have that, like I don't because I forgot, I'm going to go grab that now. We're going to share with you today 4 breathing techniques that are really, really simple. And what I like about using breathing techniques is because it gives you like a structure and kind of like a guide to follow. Because many of us, myself included, if I just tell you to breathe, I might take like a breath and then my mind is going bing, 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 bing. So at least when you have like a pattern or a structure to follow, or something to think about, it can kind of keep you on track and really feel the benefits of breath work. The first one is one that I think Laura and I both do in class a lot, and it goes by sometimes like there's kind of I call it 4-2 breathing. So 4, 2. Other people, I know it's called box breathing by some people as well.
All right. So 4-2 breathing or box breathing, basically, the difference between the two is if whether you find, like, I really resonate with counting. So that's the 4-2 breathing versus if you're somebody who's a little bit more of like a visual person, you can use the box framework. So it's the idea, the 4-2 breathing is counting 4 counts for each inhale and exhale, and then a 2-count pause between each one. So that's why it's called box breathing, because let me just use my book. I'm going to draw a little box. So if you have a box and you have the 4 lines, that's an awful box. Don't judge my box ability. You have 4, 2, 4, 2. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we do that together, and sometimes, especially if you're somebody who doesn't do a lot of really deep breathing, this can feel a little bit uncomfortable physically, but I want you to think about it as a way you're almost like building your lung strength, which is even really good in a time like this when we're dealing with like respiratory risks. So we're going to do this together. So I want you to get grounded, shoulders down and back, feet on the floor if you're sitting in a chair. We're going to take a nice big deep breath in, and I want you to keep breathing for the entire time I count. So we're going to take a nice big deep breath in, and we're going to go 4 counts. A big deep breath. 3, 2, 1, and then I want you to hold that breath. 1, 2, and now we exhale 4 counts. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 2. Inhale, big 4 counts. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. And then exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold. So the benefit of this style of breathing can really be experienced when in those 4 counts, you want to like maximize those 4 counts. So inhaling literally as much as possible. Like you should feel like by that 4th count, like you got no room left in your belly. And so you're sitting there for 2 breaths or 2 counts with this nice big full lungs of oxygen. And then when you exhale, same thing, almost like by the end of the 4th count, like you have gotten every last little bit of breath back out. Mm-hmm. And what this forces us to do is that, kind of like we talked about last night, that holding of the pause, oftentimes when we get stressed, our breathing becomes really shallow, and we can just like, we can kind of like, almost like a mini version of hyperventilating. It's not enough to make us faint, but it's enough to change the stress levels in our body physically. So this forces us to become super aware of our breath. And you'll notice that even doing like 4 to 6 of these breaths, you will physically feel like entirely different. You will feel slower. You will feel like anything, if you were vibrating on a really high frequency of anxiety or anger or whatever, Like it's almost impossible to hold on to that feeling after a few of those breaths. So really think about, and you can use again 4-2, like you can play, some people do 4-4, you could do 6-2, like listen to your body, whatever feels good for you. But it's just that idea of holding the breath for a second before moving on to either the inhale or the exhale.
And I'm going to add to that, and keeping the counting consistent. So breathing in, having it at one pace, and then not speeding through the exhale or the pause. We want that rhythm there to have that consistency with the breath.
Does anyone have questions about breathing technique?
I do.
Sure, Kat.
When on the exhale, I'm supposed to hold that for 2 counts, but my body, I immediately start feeling anxious and a little panicked because I'm not getting any air. So am I releasing too much, or?
So that's all happening in your head. If I asked you to hold your breath right now, how long do you think you could hold your breath comfortably?
3 minutes.
So 2 counts. You're not actually under physical duress, are you?
No.
So that's where we want to, it's almost as if this technique will be more valuable to you because you want to prove to yourself that you're safe and that your body can handle it. And that's why it's almost forcing us to, that's why I talked to even about like this can be physically uncomfortable for us because we are so used to like going in and out, especially if we're feeling that anxiety. So even if you're doing this style of breathing, using that mantra of I'm safe, my body is capable, I have enough breath, and knowing that, that uncomfortableness is okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You got more than enough air in there, and fresh air is coming in just 2 counts.
It comes easier the more you practice it.
Yeah. And I think too, sometimes I feel that same way too, Kat. My body gets a little panicky there, even though I know it's going to be okay, but it's just that, in the moment physical reaction. The more I do it, and even the longer, so the more repetitions that I do, my body starts to relax. So then my capacity to hold my breath gets better. Just like Anita said, with the practice. So.
And actually, it's a good question because Kat too, and this goes for everybody. If you remember, we had an osteopath named Andy, and I'm trying to remember what her Instagram tag is because she did a really great post the other day about becoming aware of what type of breather you are. And this can be done that basically like even like Mode, for example, can basically film. It's from the side is the best way to look at it. Is like just have her film you like breathing like normal. And have like a little side profile, and this everybody can do because there's a few different types of breathing, and oftentimes, so I think the 3 that she said was shoulder breathing, where kind of like you can see a small, and it doesn't have to be a big one, but you see like every inhale and exhale, your kind of shoulders and neck are moving. The most common one that I would say is chest breathers. So this is where I'm just going to lower this for a second so that you can really see. Is that if I'm breathing through my chest, you're going to see, did you see that when I inhale? It's almost as if I'm pushing my boobs out. Versus if I'm breathing through my belly, you see that difference? My chest didn't really move at all. And if you're somebody who is naturally in a state that your habit that you've built up is chest breathing, any other breathing technique is going to feel really physically uncomfortable at first because if you think of it like a muscle, it's as if all your life, maybe, this has been your bicep curl. All right. And these muscles are real strong, real developed, but this feels really comfortable to you. And then if I come along and I ask you to do this, you're going to be like, what? What is this? I've never done this before. So we're literally going to start training your lungs to take bigger exhales and to feel the breath move differently physically in the body. So it just might be interesting for you all to do, because especially if you find deep, we're going to do another one at the end called belly breathing, where we're really focusing on building that technique. But if you just notice that if you can take notice that you're breathing really up here, then it's something that we can start to become cognizant of, like during the day, of just like constantly bringing us down to our belly and changing the way that we breathe. And you'll honestly feel so different. It'll change like everything. You'll have more energy. You'll be able to sleep better. In classes, you'll get better results from the exercises that you're doing. You're going to be able to exercise for longer and more intense durations, because your body is just going to be getting more oxygen.
I'm definitely a chest breather and more shallow and right in the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and definitely in moments or periods of stress, you'll find yourself breathing that way even more so, even if it's not your usual way of breathing. Your body just kind of takes over and starts to do that for you. I didn't hear what Courtney said. I'm assuming she has to get something. So let's just carry on. Okay, I'm going to do one of my favorite ones because it's very tactile. So get out your markers, pens, whatever you got there. I have multiple colors. If you want to do that, you can. So I'm going to start with one. So this one's called Lazy 8 Breathing. And the reason why it's called Lazy 8, it's not because we're being lazy. I'm just going to grab a little book here. We're going to draw like the infinity symbol or a sideways 8. So Courtney, we're doing the Lazy 8 breathing, in case you didn't gather that. So I'm going to grab my piece of paper, and you can have this on a desk or you can hold it up in front of you depending on what feels good for you. So I'm just going to demonstrate. So I'm going to take my marker, and I got to turn a little bit here.
I appreciate your color choice.
I know. I didn't have purple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with the marker, trace or draw my inhale. So I'm going to inhale, drawing one side of it, and then come on up, and then exhale around and finish it. Ooh, look at that. It's beautiful. Oh, wait, you can't see it, can you? Sorry.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Let me do that again. I'm going to try and do it sideways or backwards. So I'm going to inhale as I come down, and then exhale as I come back up and close off that Lazy 8. I'm sorry, I'm trying really hard to do this backwards. So with this, you can have your eyes closed, and then you can connect a little bit more with it. And for people who find it difficult to slow down and focus on their breath, this can be a more tactile way of connecting with it. So if you find your mind needs a little bit more support to set thoughts or feelings or whatever aside, and you need a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, of your senses into this one. So we talked about that yesterday, right? So not just visual, but auditory, kinesthetic as well. So you can have your eyes closed. I'm going to try and do it backwards. So I'm going to inhale and then exhale out. Hey, that wasn't too bad. And with that, you can change up if you want to do different markers to create a really fun, cool design and just see what happens after when it's all done. But I highly recommend closing your eyes to do it so that you can connect that touch with the breath and kind of slow your body down a little bit more. So why don't we try that one together now?
And if you don't want to do a physical marker, you can basically
thank you.
Once and just use your finger to kind of follow along. If you're like me and I'm like, I would go off the paper.
Or even in the air, or your finger on a table or a wall or something. If you don't want to use a writing tool, that's okay too. So let's try that together. I'm gonna set mine down on my lap. All right, so eyes closed if you feel comfortable that way. So you're just gonna start kind of one corner, inhale, and then following the rate of your breath, exhale, bringing your marker or tool or finger back around to close it off. And just keep going with the flow of your breath. Again, we want the goal of this to be a slow, consistent rhythm, not speeding through it, So let your breath dictate and regulate the flow of your finger or your marker here. Also getting that breath down into the belly as well. And we'll do a couple more cycles here. And let's finish off with one more. And exhale. Good. So that one, it doesn't have a pause in it. It flows. It's very like circular almost. It just continues there. So I quite like that one. I do find sometimes my finger will keep tracing and I might have disconnected from it, but my breath is at a really good rhythm that feels good, but kind of that motion of my hand continuing on its own, it also feels very relaxing. So this can be a good way to connect in a moment where it's very hard to tune out anything that's distracting you. If you find yourself in a more heightened state, that finger, okay, I'm connected with my breath, I have that physical sensation, and just continue from there. Lazy 8.
I also just put a link to that osteopath that I was talking about. I put it in the chat if you want to check
Is it
out.
Osteo by Andy, I think is her handle?
Just osteo.andy.
Oh, okay.
She's awesome. She's got all sorts of tips on her page.
She is actually, I have seen her. So she's my osteopath and she's amazing. She's great. I'm missing her right now.
Okay. So any questions about lazy 8 breathing? Yeah, that one's pretty
self-explanatory, right? I find that's a good one. If you have kids or younger people in your life, that can be kind of fun for them because they get to get creative with it too.
Yeah.
Okay. I find with that one though, I tend to rush through that one.
Fair. Yeah. So you have to be very connected with it and purposeful and keep that rhythm slow. Cause yeah, I can be like, okay, I'm breathing, I'm getting into this little trance. Yeah, that's fair.
We all have a different connection to different breathing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You might have one that speaks more to you too. So
Courtney,
okay.
can you do the nostril one? It's not my jam, I'm gonna be honest.
I really like this one. Sorry, as I choke on my own breath. So single nostril breathing, you often find that it makes an appearance in a lot of yoga classes. It's really great because it forces an awareness between left and right brain. And it also forces an awareness of breathing only through like a slightly like limited capacity. So it forces you to take really big breaths because it's only coming in through like one channel, so to speak. So you're basically going to make a little gun with your right hand. And we're going to place it kind of like around our nose. All right. So we're going to start with, we're going to press down on one nostril using our thumb as we breathe in. And then we're going to let that go as we press down with the other finger as we breathe out. All right. So that's the basics of it. We're just kind of rotating, closing one nostril at a time. All right, so you can close your eyes. We're going to set it up. So pressing down with your thumb, we're going to take a nice big deep breath. And then exhale, change it over. And same thing, I really want you to focus on breathing in as much as you physically can, and then breathing out as much as you physically can. So start to find your own rhythm. Switch your fingers as it feels good to you. Inhaling with the thumb, closing the right side. And then exhale. Let's do one more. All right. How does that feel? I just feel with that one, I always notice like it changes my body more than any of the other breathing techniques. I'm just like, whoa, I'm good. Gives me a bunch of energy.
You can really feel the air in the nostril. It's a very physical kind of breathing. You feel the cold air coming in and releasing.
Leah, I see your hand up.
Thanks. I was just wondering, is it the same nostril always exhaling and the same nostril always inhaling? So like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale?
You can switch it. You can switch it.
Or is it like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale?
So I would choose one for whatever you're using. So always, like if I'm starting with my right hand, I would always do on the same side. But then if you want to one day switch.
Okay.
Fine too.
Because I think then if you start to think about having to remember which one to inhale and exhale, it's going to be distracting a little bit, and also you won't be able to connect to your breath quite the same way, because I think you'll be thinking a little bit more about it versus this way it's a little bit more rhythmic, right? Yeah.
And blow your nose before you do this.
I struggle with that one. I do find like it feels really good and I can breathe a lot longer than otherwise with that one. But I find one side of my nose is often congested. So I struggle with that one. And I was like, oh crap, people could probably hear my nose like whistling right now. But it's also just a little uncomfortable. So that one, I personally don't connect with a whole lot, but I try it anyway.
Awesome, thank you.
And Kat, did you have a question?
Actually, Leah asked my question.
There you go. You two are on the same wavelength.
One mind.
All right, then the last one is, again, one that we do a lot in class.
I feel like I need to lie down for this one.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do this. I'll do half these with you, Lori. And yes, Miss Leah?
Sorry, I have another question. What were the benefits of that one again? The nostril breathing.
It's separating it into right and left brain.
Okay.
So it's literally forces your brain to work a little bit differently than we normally do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So with belly breathing, it's really focusing, as we've kind of mentioned, on building the skill of feeling your breath from the bottom. So small, kind of very basic, I don't like getting too sciencey, so very, very basic anatomy lesson is that oftentimes we think about our lungs kind of doing this. Even I say the word like wringing out your lungs, and we think of them as two bags kind of going in and out. And usually if you see even like diaphragms of lungs, they often just stop at the kind of the bags, if you will. But there's actually something else below the lungs that's really, really important that can really come in handy to just know about when we're breathing, which is your diaphragm. So this is a muscle that kind of sits underneath your lungs, and it's actually the primary muscle that forces breathing. So it presses up as we exhale to help squeeze the air out of our lungs. And then it lowers down to provide more space as we inhale. So it literally kind of sits just underneath your ribs. And I find it really helps to know that there's something inside me that's kind of lifting up and lowering down. Because again, it really gives me something to visualize because the muscle is physically located. We often think of our lungs as being kind of up here because that's where we feel, again, especially for chest breathers, we feel that contraction and expansion. But if you think of our diaphragm, which is much lower, that's a really good, and it's kind of going down here. It's a really good muscle to know about and to kind of try to connect to as we breathe, especially with belly breathing, because it's in the physical location that we want to focus on, if that makes sense. All right, very small anatomy lesson. All right, do you want to take over, Miss Lori, or do you want me to keep going?
Sure. I feel like I want to lie down for this one. So if anybody else wants to, let's do it.
Yeah, you can lie down.
Move. I apologize if my lighting's not super great.
Oftentimes when we cue this one, you can either do it. I did one technique last night, which is basically putting your right hand into a fist on your belly. I'm just going to take my camera down a little bit. Right hand into your fist and left hand on top. You can also do it with just 2 hands on top. You can also do it with right hand on your belly and left hand on your heart. That's probably my favorite position.
That's what I'm
Yeah, and the reason that we often, especially when we're beginning to learn this type of breathing, that we want to have something physically on our belly is because, again, it gives you something really tactile to feel, that we're feeling our belly push against our hands, or especially if you're using this technique, you will actually feel and see your hands lifting up and down a lot more. Actually, it's good that you're in this position, Lori, because they're going to be really able to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you want me to describe it while you breathe? Ooh, look at that. Okay.
So I'm going to do it without my hands on my stomach and chest first so that you can see. But I really like, again, it's kind of like that lazy 8. It's connecting your body a little bit more in a tactile way to the breath. So this can also be, if you are someone who does find themselves breathing through and with their chest mostly, this can be a really good way to connect and be like, okay, where is the oxygen traveling to? Am I feeling the rise more in my chest, or am I feeling it more in the belly? Okay, so I'm going to start with my arms off.
So we're
Take
going
it away, Courtney.
We're going to basically work from the top down. So I want you to first visualize the air coming in through your nose, traveling down the back of your throat into your esophagus, and then literally filling your lungs up from top to bottom. So we'll feel a slow expansion here, and feeling that diaphragm again lower down and the belly expand as we breathe. And then feeling it contract in the opposite manner. So as we exhale, feeling the belly lower down, feeling the diaphragm contract up, and then the breath traveling up, out your throat, through either your nose or your mouth. So we're really focusing on what's physically happening that's why it's called belly breathing, because we want to physically think about what's happening with that contraction and expansion with the breath. And that's why that hand can really help, because I'll often cue, feel the belly press up and against your hand, feel the hand lift up towards the ceiling as we inhale, and then feel the hand fall towards the spine, feel the belly fall as we exhale. And this is a really good way to start training to feel what belly breath is like, because you're going to notice real quickly if you stop halfway, or if you're doing the split hand technique, there's only one hand that should be lifting up. This hand really shouldn't lift at all. So it helps even to separate the two and give you a really, again, tactile, physical cue to where you're feeling your breath. Good. Let's take a few more big deep breaths together. So feel that belly rise with the inhale. And feel the belly fall with your exhale. Awesome job. Great work, everybody. How did that one feel?
I love this. I've just realized why I have so much trouble with belly rolls.
Oh yeah. I could have stayed there for a little bit longer.
Similar, yeah. So these are probably there's so many different breathing techniques. These are the top 4 that we probably use in our teaching and just in our own practices, which is why we wanted to share them with you. But feel free to listen to your body, and if you want to make any adjustments that feels good to you and where you're at and where you're working with, we definitely empower you to do so. And even a great way to start with meditation is just say, like, okay, I'm going to take 5 breaths or 8 breaths or 10 breaths, and that can be a meditation to start off with. Yes, Miss Anita.
I was just going to say, one thing I found really helped me, Kat, when I first started belly breathing, a meditation teacher told me that when you breathe in, if you think in your head here, and as you breathe out, you think now. So it's here and now. And that keeps you grounded and present, and it stops the monkey brain from coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do that.
So some people say in and out, but I just find here and now just finds me grounded in the present moment.
Yeah, for sure. And some people, as you said, yeah, Anita even will say things like inhale, exhale, like we'll physically like use those words for each action.
Mm-hmm.
Here and now, that's also where the breathing mantras like the oohs and the ums and the ohs
Yeah.
can come from. Is because again, it's just okay. On my exhale, I'm going to say whatever word for me, my body, because it gives us something to focus on with each breath.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of ways to. This is where I always say it's lots of ways to play. The process of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. That was really informative.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And if
Very
you have any
helpful.
questions, let us know. We will post this replay as well. And we're happy to share all the tips. All right.
Okay, I'm back to work, so have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Yep. Bye, everybody.